Welcome. My name is Mike Timmins, CEO of Fury, and I'm happy to provide a brief company update. Please review our disclaimer on forward-looking statements. Fury is an exploration and development company focused on advancing high-grade gold projects in Canada. We were formed last year from the reorganization of Oren Resources and the subsequent acquisition of East Main Resources. And we've been active now for about 8 months, really focused on the early exploration success at Eau Claire, which is our project in Quebec. We're well positioned, 3.7 million ounces across a 3-asset platform. And the focus is on growth from 2 modes. Adding ounces to our current resources, so that steady ounce addition, and then positioning our shareholders for that next new major gold discovery. These are the 3 assets. The Eau Claire asset is our lead asset in Quebec. It's very nicely positioned in the central James Bay region. I can drive to Eau Claire from Toronto, right? We have great infrastructure and good project access. Right in behind that is the Homestake Ridge project that lies at the tip of the Golden Triangle in BC. It really anchors the Homestake trend, which we share with Dolly Varden Silver and Hecla. Community Bay is our project up in Nunavut, and it's a 300-kilometer gold belt that sits about 150 kilometers north of Agnico Eagle's operations there. While we've arranged these projects in a bit of a pipeline, with Eau Claire, then Homestake, then Community Bay, you can see that all 3 projects have the same size resource, and they're all over 7 grams per ton, which is obviously is key. Capital structure, we have 118 million shares outstanding. Those are the options and warrants, dilutables coming in from both sides at the transaction last year. We have about 8 million Canadian in cash at the moment. We have 5 analysts covering with a consensus buy target of around 350 Canadian or 290 US. We have a very supportive long-term retail shareholder base, up to about 84% of the ownership. And then we have a handful of high net worth individuals that are in and around 20%, which support us and support the group of company. Myself, Michael Hendrickson, and Lindsay Sherry are from the majors. We're coming down cap here because we see that there's the ingredients, right? We're all trained for growth and doing things right, good capital allocation, building the team, and really get prepared before you have to. And that's the long view we have here. We have the skill set internally to grow a large mining company. We have the skill sets to build a mine, and we have the financial backing and skill sets we need to fund our ongoing operations. The board, I would say the latest board acquisition was a gentleman named Tim Clark, who was a former BMO sales professional based in Boston. We have over 50% US shareholder base. And so it's, it looks good, and I think it's smart for a Canadian company of our size to have a good, solid US representation on the board. Bottom of the slide, we're talking about ESG. It's obviously a requirement now from a lot of people. The high net worth retail now are beginning to ask a bit more about ESG, and certainly those tier 1 investors need it now as a requirement. I would argue that any modern operator or any modern mineral exploration company clearly needs to be doing these things, and most of them, right, I would say. And so this is a good window for people to look into our business to find out who are we. It's a different dimension of a management team. How do we treat our employees, and how do we work with and engage our communities? We're going to focus, given the limited time, we're going to focus on Eau Claire. Eau Claire sits in the James Bay region of Quebec, which I already said. It's about 50 kilometers south of Newmont's Éléonore mine. Roads, airports, and power. I can't think of a better place to advance a mineral exploration project. We have all the infrastructure in place. We're 18 kilometers away from the nearest power dam, and next to no population. We were attracted to this project by the quality of the resource. 60% of it is in the measured and indicated category, which is very, very comforting given the geological setting of gold in quartz veins. We've been very busy and deliberately drilling outside of the current resource in order to do two things: demonstrate that it can grow, and also kind of stitch together some of these clumsy outlier mining blocks so that we have one cohesive mass down at the bottom eastern margin of the deposit. We've made a few discoveries, right? Or we've unpackaged a few different growth elements of the project. We've identified a secondary parallel zone, which we're at this point calling the Snake Lake structure, which is parallel to Eau Claire and may even rival it with respect to size. So it's very interesting with our view of trying to multiply what's there. And the second is something called the 850 hinge zone, which we'll talk about more. We'll have to have a bit of a science discussion before we really look to the impact of what that could mean for us. This is Eau Claire from our point of view. It's a 4 to 5 kilometer situation. If you look at the thin red line, that is the surface projection of the current resource. What we wanted to do, and the design of the first exploration program that we have embarked on here at Eau Claire, is under the concept of time value exploration, right? We want to know as soon as possible how big Eau Claire can be, right? What do we got, right? And so, we let the technical guys go, okay, we would like to drill all of the ideas. We want to follow all of the obvious geometries, but we also want to do some big step outs. We also want to drill into all of the different rock types that are going on here. And we want to really chase up a lot of the interesting ideas that they had and concepts. Our very, very first drill hole was I believe it was this one, 700 meters away. Right, that's the type of exploration we do, and that to us is a step out hole. It's not 20 meters away; it's 700 meters away. And we hit the Eau Claire structure, nice big fat fluid pathway, 700 meters away. So we're very happy with that first result. This used to be target C, but it turned out to be the depth extension of the Snake Lake structure that's actually here at surface. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Previous owners communicated to us that Eau Claire seemed to be cut off if you go west, and I can show you that that is indeed not the case. And we've built targets from first principles, and you're going to see that. So it's exciting. We're drilling that now, and it's going to be very exciting for us. This is the same image, but in long section. And you can see that all of our deposit drilling has been in and around this bottom pod at Eau Claire, right? So this is it's one of the highest grade pods there. So this entire area volume is around 200,000 ounces at just under 12 grams per ton. When we bring this to indicated, it sits at around 10 grams per ton, right? And again, we're drilling around this to demonstrate its growth. The first hole that we put into Eau Claire was hole 6, right? And it was 8 meters of 1 gram, right? So not a super sexy market hole, but 8 meters of fluid pathway, identical to what we see up in the resource itself. So we're pretty happy. So we said, let's drill for some grade. We drilled out almost 9 grams and 15 grams. And so from a statistical perspective, when we're bringing in all these results, they're more and more becoming very congruent with what we're seeing previously. And again, this used to be target C when we were drilling, but indeed Eau Claire seems to be weakening as you get out as you get out to about 1 kilometer to the east, and then kind of Snake Lake takes over with 94 grams and good indications at there's some previous drilling in here and good indications at surface. And you can see what we're talking about with the limb extension going down dip, and then certainly the fold hinge. This is our deposit drilling, and so right now we're about 50-50, right? So we are halfway through the first 50,000 meters of drilling, and of that 25,000 meters that we've drilled, half of it has gone into deposit drilling, and this isn't infill drilling, right? We're deliberately drilling around the resource blocks, and then the other half of those are exploration drilling as the guys test and put 2 to 4 holes along the deposit trend. This has all come out in news, obviously. 6 meters of 11.5, 7 meters of 23. Indeed, confirming big high-grade nature. And of course, we can all take our Sharpie and draw big resource blocks around these results as they come through. And what we want to do is start stepping out and going, taking these and dragging them out down plunge, both from the top of this block and then down where we're getting other good results around here, and bringing them out. Calling it. I think that guys are calling this a gap zone between here and our first down plunge panel that we drilled earlier in the season. Jumping out now to target B, right? So this is 700 meters away from the Eau Claire resource, right? And again, our first hole was hole 6 that we put. The red body is the Eau Claire structure itself, the Eau Claire deposit. You can see that it's riding the structure as you go down. And of course, for all those holes, we hit exactly where we thought that we would hit. We let one of the holes run into the sediments and hit a horizon between the volcanics and the sediments, which indeed is what we're calling the Snake Lake structure, and hit 6.5 over 1.5. This happens to be 1.1 kilometers below the Snake Lake surface expression. Now, previously, this was marketed to us as a small open pit and nothing more, but obviously that's clearly not the case. We let, after this initial result, we let target panel C hole continue to go down into the same horizon at 94 over 0.5, right? So this is 850 meters at a vertical depth underneath Snake Lake. So what we see here is some scale. And what we're seeing here is a lot of room in order to grow this structure, both east and west and to depth. After the 94 grams per ton, we backed up the drill and we put 3 holes in. All the holes came back with coarse visible gold in them. And on hole 1, we actually found a new zone sandwiched in between Eau Claire structure and the Snake Lake structure. And that new zone is basically Eau Claire mineralization. So early days, but we're very, very excited with how we're positioned here for Snake Lake. This is Eau Claire West. And as you can see, when you start to look west, you can see that Eau Claire sits on one of the limbs of the Eau Claire anticline. So you can think of this as a folded piece of paper, which is pointing at you. The fold hinge, or where the paper is folded, always gets people excited, because in a setting like this, the fold is a good trap for gold, right? It's a good place for fluids to pool and to concentrate. And so that's why everyone loves the hinge target, right? Fold nose, that's the first thing that you drill. And so we're drilling that now. But there's a bit of a story in behind that, and we should talk about that. And I won't get too scientific, but if you and I were to look at this solid unit, all we would see is just black rock. But when you take the geochemical data process it, and plot it up into 3D, you're actually going to see that there's actually two units of basalts here. There's a magnesium unit, which is the one in blue, and an iron-rich basalt, which is the one in green. And you can see that right, and this is a cross-section right through the guts of the middle of the Eau Claire resource. And you can see that the resource itself resides on that margin between those two units, and a bit more into the iron-rich unit, because it is actually a bit better of a chemical trap for gold. When you go from this position west, right, you actually start going to depth, right, because the whole anticline itself is going away from you to depth at about 30 degrees. So when you go out, a couple hundred meters from here, right, that horizon is actually sitting down here at, about 450 to 500 meters below all the previous drilling, right? And again, the previous view was that Eau Claire, the Eau Claire is here. It doesn't go any further west. It's disappointing. Maybe you can make a little open pit out of this, but it's lost. It's exhausted. This isn't Eau Claire. This is Eau Claire, right? And so this was completely missed. The success here so far is that we've come up with a very robust and exciting target from first principles. We just finished our second hole into the nose, and if the assay results come back to match what we're seeing in the geology, we're all going to be very, very excited about what's in store for the future of the 850 hinge zone. Everything that we've talked about so far, of course, has been at Eau Claire proper, and then certainly along the deposit trend, 4 or 5 kilometers out to, and we'll eventually go past Snake Lake about 1 kilometer. There's more surface expression of Snake Lake going to the east. But of course, that's just not. That's not the full picture. Right? The full picture has to include what's happening regionally. And so if you look at this, of course, you can see that there's more than enough regional targets for us to drill that have been built up from analyzing the geophysics and the structural inter. You can see Percival, which we've highlighted and recently put out in a press release. Percival was a 2018 discovery, and the guys were walking, kicked over a nice rock, took a sample underneath it. It came back 7 to 8 grams per ton. They backed up the drill and they drilled 90 meters of 2 grams in a completely different geological setting than Eau Claire, which of course is early days, but you have to put all those data points together, right? When you think of long-term growth and long-term success, right, you've got to be looking for a few things. You want to see gold present at all project scales, and you want to see gold occurring in different geological settings, right? And we certainly have that with it, right? And so you're going to see us, doing further work on these projects this summer, with a bit of a now that the snow's gone, a bit of a summer program, and then plan for us to drill 1 or 2 of these, or more maybe, next winter. We've had a big year so far in 2021. We've been a company now for 8 months. We've assembled a team. We've put ourselves in a good financial position. We put out a base shelf prospectus so that we can raise money more efficiently and in a higher quality way. And we're just going to simply continue to unpackage Eau Claire and really drive into the market. But that Eau Claire is not what you see, is what you get, right? The PEA, in my view, at Eau Claire is completely obsolete. Some areas of the PEA, some modules are of value, and of course we're going to keep those going. We're just kicking off baseline environmental, which is important, so that's moving. Other catalysts that are coming this year, of course, are going to be, our summer plans for Homestake Ridge, right? Particularly the silver zone. And then, of course, there's great anticipation and, the building of interest every time that we go up to Community Bay, right? And so we're in the final planning steps there. We're going to be pushing the button on a program up in Community Bay. So stay tuned for some exciting drilling in Canada's Great White North. Thank you, everyone, for your time. As always, we are very, very accessible. And so any questions, you will actually get a human if you email at info@furygoldmines.com, and we'll get back to you within 24 hours. Thank you.